Hi, my sweet strangelings. Today is Strange Supernatural Sundays, and you know what that means? That means that on Sundays, I will be telling strange stories, ghost stories from all parts of different places. And I'm trying to get my Mondays to be Mystic Mondays, where I bring a guest and we talk about anything strange, or if they have an expertise in anything of such, they will come on the show and we will talk about it. Today we're going to be talking about the Ouija board. I have a very good Ouija board story for you guys. I recently did a story over on Instagram and TikTok regarding this story I found on TikTok where this girl was talking about her boyfriend and how she contacted her boyfriend through a Ouija board. Now, the Ouija board has been villainized for several years at this point, and so today I have a very wonderful story for you guys. Stay tuned after the story because I will be sharing some fun facts and findings, and of course, because I am a medium, I will always be giving some advice at the end of these spooky stories. In the heart of a vibrant, peaceful neighborhood, nestled among whispering trees and manicured lawns, stood a beautiful house that had been a joy of warmth since the 1950s. Within its walls, a couple had lived there a full life, raising their family and witnessing the blossoming of their community into a flourishing haven where there was nothing bad that ever happened. However, we know that life is limited. Shadows eventually crept into this idyllic existence. The father, a pillar of strength and love family, was diagnosed with cancer. There was a hope, a bright flame in the darkness, that he could overcome this dire challenge. Yet fate took a cruel turn as the disease returned with vengeance, leaving the family grappling with the impending loss of their beloved father. So in the midst of their despair, during this very, very turbulent era, was that of the 1980s. Now, the daughter was driven by a desperate desire for a one last connection with her father. Now, this was a very controversial decision in their household, but she decided that she must contact him. So she acquired a Ouija board, a tool steeped in mystery and fear, rumored to bridge the worlds of the living and the dead. Despite the harrowing tales of spectral hauntings and demonic invocations associated with the Ouija board, she held onto a silver hope that it could serve as a conduit to her father's spirit. So here she goes and she buys the Ouija board and she brings it home. And as soon as she opened the door, her mother looked at her like, "What the heck are you doing?" "Mom, listen, I know this is scary and we're hearing things, but I have to do this." Her mother's like, "You must put this outside right now and bury it and put holy water into it." "No, Mom, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and you can't stop me." And her mother also feeling like there has to be something out there. There has to be life after death. Wanted to give in to her daughter so bad in her plea, but still put her foot down. "No, put this outside right at once." So her daughter goes outside, but as she's doing this, she makes sure that her mom is not watching, and she puts it underneath the trash can. So that way, if anyone were to see it, they wouldn't take it. No, that's not the best way to go about things, but bear with the circumstances here. So later that night, she sneaks outside, she grabs a Ouija board, she throws it over the backyard fence, runs back inside, and her mom's just sitting there in the living room reading a magazine, and she walks outside and she goes and grabs the Ouija board that she threw over the fence and sneaks through the back into her bedroom. So there she has it. She decides to light a white candle, and here she is just moving the planchette around. Next to her is her father's jean jacket that he used to wear. Next to her is her father's watch that he used to wear. "Father, are you here? Please?" Nothing. Right, she's just sitting there. Well, all right, I give up. And right as she's about to get up, in barges her brother. "Why are you being a weirdo? And why is there a candle lit up?" "Oh no, please don't tell Mom." "Wait, why? What are you doing?" "Oh my God, I'm about to..." She covers his mouth. "Please don't tell Mom." "Okay, but you have to tell me what's happening," he says. So she removes a hand from his mouth and he looks down, and there it is, the Ouija board and the candle and the watch. Are you trying to contact? She puts her mouth again over her brother. Stop. Please, just listen. I feel like I've been sensing Dad everywhere. I'm outside, I go to school, and I just feel like he's everywhere. And I have to know if he's here watching us. You're crazy. I'm going to tell Mom. Please, I'm begging you. I never ask you for anything. Right, says the brother. What do you need me to do? Let's sit down, and we're going to try to channel Dad. He sighs. So they sit down, they lock the door, they move the planchette around. Again, they try to channel the dad. Now this time, the son says, this is so ridiculous. No way. There's no way. There's no way. I know Dad didn't abandon us, but it hurts, and I don't want to think about this. And as soon as he's about to get up, moves the planchette. H-E-R-E. Here. Gasps the daughter. He's here. He's here. Then the brother says, okay, if he's here, you totally moved it. And she's like, no, I didn't. And the brother says, yeah, you did. But if he is here, when did he get this watch? Because I know when he got it. And you weren't there with us. As he looks to the daughter, his sister. You're right, I don't know. So here they move it. B-E-N-I-C-E. Be nice. The daughter, the sister, because she's the same, looks at her brother and she's like, see, you're doing this. No, I'm not. He's saying to be nice, which is something he used to always say, so it's really weird. But I need a date. All right. 9. All right, so they get to the numbers. 1, 9, 7, 2. 1972 was when he got the watch. Now the brother freaks out and gets up and starts running out of the room. He runs and tells the mom, Mom, your daughter, my sister, she is doing some loony bin stuff in the room. She brought in the Ouija board, and the mom gets mad. She runs in there and she's like, I told you to put this outside and bury it and put holy water in it. The daughter looks at her mom. Mom, we just contacted Dad. He is here. Please sit. Just try. And the mom's like, you know what? All right. You have a minute to prove to me. So she grabs a planchette. The brother decides to also chime in and sits down next to her. And it spells out D-O-V-E, dove. The mom pauses because, little did we know, that was her nickname. Her beloved husband called her Dove. Love, Dove, Dove. She gasps. This is too much for me, kids. Stop. She starts crying and runs out the room. At this point, the daughter, the sister, looks at her brother. So that's Dad. So she says out loud, Dad, I love you. Thank you for being here. I know you've been with us, but it's time to go home. Are you tired? And then the planchette moves to yes. Dad, will you always be here? And the planchette moves to yes. Well, it's okay to go wherever you need to go, Dad. I don't think we need you anymore. We'll always need you, but I want you to rest. And then nothing. Then the planchette says goodbye. Now, the next day, the mother is freaked out. The kids swear that their dad came through, but they put the Ouija board in the garage. Now, this was in the 80s. So in the 2000s, the mother passed away, and they left the Ouija board in the garage in the corner, collecting cobwebs, and someone finally bought it to take it home. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this story. And this story was inspired by a interaction I had. So behind me, if you're on Spotify, you can see the Ouija board. So I bought this Ouija board at an estate sale, and some of the elements in the story are very much based on that. I found it in an estate sale, did a cleansing, and I did feel sadness. I did feel that the father passed. Towards the very end, as we left, we found a pamphlet that said cancer. So this is homage to that. And also, Ouija boards have been villainized for such a long time. And so I wanted to share a couple of things to consider with Ouija boards. Now, with the video that I made on TikTok reacting to the girl that contacted her boyfriend, her late boyfriend, there were several comments in the comment section talking about how you shouldn't be using Ouija board. They're horrible. And it's like, out of all the things, let's really think about this for a second in terms of the metaphysical. Out of all the things that gets villainized is a Ouija board. But the Ouija board falls into placement with people that do tarot cards. Tarot is a divination tool, dowsing rods, pendulums. So anything that you use to divine, to get a message, receive messages, is a divination tool in some respect. Now I'm going to bring up the official definition. So what is a divination? Divination is an ancient practice of energetic communication serving as a bridge between our world and the spiritual realm. It's one of the best rituals to tap into our intuition and connect with our guides or spirits. Throughout history, cultures worldwide have sought knowledge, guidance, and messages from higher consciousness using various divination tools, from runes to tarot, pendulum, and Ouija boards are definitely included in that. Now, this answer is inspired by spiritanddestiny.co.uk, but you get the point. Now, I want to add in some actual historical facts regarding this if you're curious. So I'm going to point out one of the ways in which the Ouija board has been villainized and how it still carries on into our society and how it has shaped our society in the present. All right, so there's this book called Aleister Crowley and the Ouija Board. There are some stuff in this book that I'm not sure how I feel about it, but in chapter 1 and 2, there's some really good information regarding the Ouija board and the villainization of it. So one of the things where it says here, I'm not saying that the Warren sphere is not well-founded or that the board could not be problematic. And they're referring to Ed and Lorraine Warren. We know them probably in current times through the Conjuring franchise, but in their time, Ed and Lorraine Warren are in the paranormal investigation field. But Ed was thought to be a demonologist, while Lorraine was a clairvoyant or a medium, if you will. And they work together in certain cases, and some that have been translated to movies. All right, so here's some couple of quotes from this book of Aleister Crowley and the Ouija board. According to the author, this is what he says. So some may wonder why I quote Ed and Lorraine Warren, considering that their reputation amongst occultists is that of Christian fearmongers who have done little more than spread paranoia about the Ouija board rather than try to understand its mysteries. This couple claims to have investigated nearly 8,000 cases of ghosts and apparitions and demons, as well as possessed people, places, and things, and they have been doing this for decades. While lecturing and writing books on their experiences, they have waged a personal war against what they feel are diabolical forces of demonic possession. Aside from quoting the book right now, I just want to say that in the 80s and 70s, you can even look at horror movies, scary movies, and the underlining messages between that time frame. So we saw specifically in horror movies in 1980s this whole religious right agenda that was being pushed at the time. And I believe I saw on Pew Research and even LA Times, they talk about how a huge portion of people in that time frame consider themselves as born again evangelists, born again religious people, right? Now, you see that in some of the film portrayal, right? We think of some of these movies where the final girl has to be a virgin and she has to be pure and good. Now, going back to the book of Aleister Crowley and the Ouija board, the argument here is not so much that we shouldn't fear the Ouija board, but it's how do we use it correctly? How do we open up, quote, the right portal? I'm going to say door because portal is also another key term that people just fear for whatever reason. I understand, but this is now getting to the segment of the villainization of Ouija boards, and how do we combat that? So Ed Warren appeared on the Coast to Coast AM radio show in October of 1999, and he said, don't use Ouija boards, don't hold seances, don't do any of these kind of occult practices. If you want to learn more about the supernatural, go to church. So it just goes to show that their agenda was very much religious spread and towards a particular religion on top of that. And it's interesting because I want to say something regarding this. It says, but if one person after another disappears in shark-infested waters, should we advocate that humanity never swims again and that it must run off to the church for every sanctuary run off to the church? Or should we spread information on fish? Now, I understand the analogy there because that's what I was trying to tell this person on TikTok. They didn't like the video that I posted. They were like, I've been intuitive my whole life, and I've been intuitive my whole life. And I can tell you after 49 years, and I'm into the paranormal, that, you know, Ouija boards are bad. And it's like, and I was trying to tell this person, look, like I've been a spiritualist and I've been doing this stuff for like the last decade. And I may not dabble into Ouija boards as much, but one thing I will say is that one path, your path is not everyone's path. And if we make mistakes and something bad happens, we don't just give up. And I think people really hold that so much. And I was telling somebody this, there's this whole analogy for even religious people. And I know I'm getting all religious, guys. Sorry, but if you follow the paranormal stuff on my channel and all this stuff, then I would hope that you'd be open-minded to this. But anyway, even with like religious stuff, right? When something bad happens and it's so bad, it's so tragic, and it's so sad, you don't just say out loud, God doesn't exist, if you do believe in God, right? And I feel like there's this weird energy around the metaphysical, or if you want to use the word occultism. If something bad happens, everything is demonic and it's all bad. And it's very much absoluteless mentality. We can make mistakes and mistakes can happen. And this is what we have to learn and continue owning our craft and why it's so important that we do. So I like this analogy here. Do we just stop swimming altogether, or do we learn about the different types of fish and what to do? We just need to give each other the tools to learn. Now, the other thing too that the Warrens went off and did is the story of The Exorcist that was written by William Peter Blatty, I think is how you say it. Sorry if I mispronounced it. But it was in 1971, and they claimed that this was completely true, and it occurred when a young boy, not a girl, began using a Ouija board. Now, the author goes on to say they are correct. The Exorcist is based on a real incident that began in January of 1949 when a young boy was given a Ouija board as a gift by an aunt who had a strong interest in the occult and spiritism. She was dying of multiple sclerosis, and being extremely close to the boy gave him the board as a means to keep in touch with her after death. She died that month of January 26th of 1949. Unfortunately, instead of reaching his aunt, he opened a portal and allowed an entity to manifest that it reportedly invaded his body. At this time, the story broke both the Evening Star, the Washington Post, and articles about this young boy's possession. Now, there have been classical movies and the author also points this out, and I'm just going to point this because it's so much good information that I'm just pointing this out for you guys, but you should read the book if you're interested. Now, he points out like movies from like the 1960s, 13 Ghosts, has a scene of the Ouija board where the ghost tells the family that it was going to kill one of them. There's also Amityville the Third in 1983. There's also The Devil's Gift of 1984, that the mother is looking for a gift for her son, and she finds a monkey in a secondhand store, buys it. What she doesn't know is that it's an evil spirit that had been conjured through a Ouija board and now resides in the little toy, which when angry becomes a bad monkey. I mean, he does a good job at mentioning a couple of handful things, but my point still stands. Like the 1980s, with a lot of this like very puristic religious stuff being pushed around through politics, through society at the time, plus movies really just owning in on societal fears, it doesn't really help how people view the Ouija board. Now, it's also important to note, which is the information from the book, that the Ouija board might have originated around 1890. But the idea of communicating with spirits and gods have been part of every country since ancient times, and methods similar to talking boards and methods similar to that of the Ouija board were long before the birth of Confucius. So in 540 BC, Greece, a philosopher who was said to use a special talking table on wheels. So, again, like the idea of divination, anything, has been used for such a long time. And if we just really think about the reason why it's been villainized and just put a little bit more logic behind the tools that we use, one isn't bad over the other. Again, it's just a matter of like, what do we prepare ourselves for? How do we protect ourselves? And I really do enjoy hearing stories, like more positive stories, but do I think that we need to be very cautious in how we handle and advocate for these things? Absolutely. I don't think it's a toy. But I'm going to wrap it up here now that I gave you guys a good story and a slew of information. I mean, I gave you guys a good starting point with the book and, of course, the idea of society in the 80s to now. And how do we dispel that? I mean, granted, yes, with social media, especially like TikTok and short form content, we are seeing a lot more awareness and conversations to be had with both like astrology, divination tools, and Ouija boards and the paranormal. Like, at least that's what I've been seeing. Hopefully, we can continue to have more great conversations about this. And if you listen to this all the way through, now you have some tools when anyone tries to fear base you guys into the whole Ouija board. Now, if you like this episode, let me know. Please give me a 5-star review. I've been seeing some amazing comments recently. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to you guys. I love you guys so much. And I will be trying to post another episode for Mystic Mondays. So I have a guest on my podcast already. He's really excited to have him on because we do talk about witchcraft and pop culture. So stay tuned for that. And I will talk to you guys some other time. Have a good day and remember to stay strange.